Hello. Okay, let me figure out how to share my screen. I'm young, but technology is challenging. Okay. Let me get over here. Okay, can y'all see that? Yes? Love it. Okay. So Anna kind of said this, but my name is Emma. I am the Art House Dallas music artist lead. I also am in a project with my husband, Nathan. Our project is called Darlin. It's kind of like a indie folk, like synth duo. Previously, we've been in another band called Glinda. I went to school for worship leadership and songwriting, so I've also done some worship leading here and there. But currently, I play electric guitar at my church, and guitar is something that I love and I've just been wanting to keep growing in. And then I've also, in the last couple years, gotten to grow as a producer. And now I feel like I'm in a place where I can demo out stuff by myself, which is so helpful when you're a songwriter to really be able to like flesh out your ideas on your own. So that's a little bit about me and where I'm coming from. We are going to talk about daily practices for the songwriter. And I am no expert on this. I feel like I've had seasons where I'm really regularly doing these things and some seasons where it's really hard to do these things. So I just want you to know that I'm kind of in the same place that y'all are, trying to learn and grow and figure all these things out. So yeah, that's what we're going to talk about today. So the first thing is inspiration. Everything starts with inspiration. I'm sure a lot of y'all are like me in that a song doesn't come until I'm inspired. And so for me, I write a lot of songs based from my story, from my experiences, from my feelings. I don't know if y'all are familiar with Enneagram, but I'm a 4, big feeler, and I write from my feelings. So maybe I've had like a really good, beautiful day, or maybe I'm in a really hard, difficult season, but it's those extremes when those moments come where I'm like, okay, I have the inspiration to write something. But we have to learn how to write when we don't have those big moments. We have to learn how do we find inspiration. Oh, I'm gonna move this over. So the way we find inspiration is by paying attention. So I'm going to say that over and over today. You're probably going to get tired of hearing me say it. But I think so much of inspiration is about learning how to pay attention. If you aren't paying attention, you're missing out on seeing God's beauty all around you, all of these beautiful things in your day to day. And you're missing out on gifts of inspiration to channel into story and song and lyrics. I'm going to talk a lot today about Julia Cameron. She has a book called The Artist's Way, which if you haven't read, it is a beautiful, helpful book as you enter into regular practices as an artist, as a songwriter. And she talks about that the capacity for delight is in the gift of paying attention. And so we can't delight or see beauty if we're not looking for it. Let's see if my computer will work. There we go. Okay, so I'm going to talk about some of these practices, like what does it look like to slow down to pay attention? So we live in a society that values speed, productivity, multitasking, but the way of Jesus is slowness, stillness, fascination, and delight. And for an artist, it's really important to learn slowness, stillness, fascination, and delight. So one of the ways that I do this or practice this kind of thought is something called a color walk. Have any of you ever heard a color walk? Maybe? Okay. So what I do in my neighborhood is I'll go on a color walk and I'll choose one color. So if you look in the photos, I chose pink here. So as I'm going on my walk, I'm looking for pink everywhere. And so as I start to look, like I have flowers here, but you also see little things that maybe you wouldn't notice. And that is the whole point, to be looking for things that otherwise you wouldn't notice or be able to use for inspiration. So a color walk is a practice to slow down and pay attention to the world around you. And when you do this, you start to find inspiration. There we go. She also talks about in her book, she talks about artist dates and morning pages. So as this can feel overwhelming as I'm going to start talking about this. So I'm going to explain it the way she says, but I think I want you to know that you can evaluate how can I implement some of these things into my schedule and what could that look like? So she talks about artist dates. So this is making regular time for you by yourself and with God to do something that inspires you, brings delight, or is restful. And there are so many different kinds of people on this call today, so many different interests. And so what this looks like, it could be cooking, it could be going to a baseball game, it could be going to a coffee shop, it could be engaging in a powerful conversation with a friend or a stranger. It could look like so many things. But the whole point of an artist date is to fill up that well so that you have something to draw from as you create. The next thing she talks about is morning pages. So this looks like the first thing that you do, sorry, my husband's coming in. The first thing that you do before anything else is you're opening up that journal and you're just writing. So, and you can have your coffee first. For me, that's really important. Like I need my pour over at the beginning of the day before I do anything else. But so what you do is in the morning, you open up that journal and you just write. And the whole goal is I want you to think about it like a brain dump. So we're getting rid of that junk so that we can clear out our minds, our spirits to create. But as we're writing, there's also opportunity for things we're writing for us to take it and use it later when we sit down to work on a song. Okay, let me keep going here. All right, next thing is always capture the idea. So we have to always be paying attention, there it is again, to words and melodies that may come at any time of the day. So for me, and I'm sure a lot of you could relate to this, I often get ideas in the car. So like I'm driving somewhere and I'm like, there's a melody. And so I like grab my phone and I'm like singing that idea because I know if I don't capture it, I'm probably gonna forget it. And so make sure that you have a way to capture those ideas when they come. So whether it's pull out your phone, record the voice memo, write down the lyrics, keep a notepad in your car, keep a journal by your bed, but make sure you have avenues that are always accessible for you to capture those ideas when they come. I don't remember if I think I was going to say it here. So something too with this is in times, whether it's maybe with friends, with family, social events, you have to train yourself, your ears to always be open to ideas that you could use. So right now, Anna mentioned we have these origin groups where we're talking about death and mortality. And it's been some really interesting conversations. And there's been moments where I will jot down something someone says, like maybe it's just a cool way of explaining something or a metaphor, and I'll jot it down. Because I think a lot of times we have to be looking for those ideas that someone might say, where it's like, oh, that's a cool idea I could use for a song. Of course, being sensitive when it's other people's words or thoughts, but generally, as I've asked people, they're like, yeah, totally, you can use that. So, okay, we'll keep moving. Next thing is scheduling time to write. So you must carve out time to write. Maybe it's an hour a day or 2 hours once a week, but if you don't carve out that time, it's probably not going to happen regularly. And this, I think, is one of the hardest things for us to do. You know, there's a lot of different kinds of people in here. We have 8 to 5 workers, we have moms, we have students. So all of you have things that are pulling towards your time. But I think this is one of the most important things that I'm sharing today is making that regular time, like setting it aside. And it's probably going to look like asking for help, whether that's like asking for a spouse to step in and help, or carving out, you're giving up something so you can make time for this. But I think in our call as an artist, as a songwriter, this is what obedience looks like. It's saying, okay, I'm going to devote time to this because it's important and because it's necessary. And as you're giving time to this, you're going to grow, you're going to get better, you're going to improve the more you do it. So, okay, let me keep moving. Okay, the last thing is reviewing your old voice memos and songs. I don't know how many of you use voice memo. I feel like most people do, but I know some people have other ways of capturing those ideas. So however you capture your ideas, making sure that you have some time to go back and review them, because you never know when a chorus that you have by itself could go with a different verse idea, or when that unfinished idea could turn into something beautiful, but you have to go back and look at them, or else you're just gonna forget about them. I do that all the time where it's like, oh, that wasn't a good idea, or oh yeah, like, and then it just gets lost in voice memo land. And so you have to go back, listen again. And the other thing I'll add on to this is with that kind of concept, I also think those are cool opportunities to bring to a co-writing session, because then you have something where it's like, oh, someone else might be able, that has something that could work with this. Because I've had that happen where it's like, here's a chorus, their verse goes really well with it. And then you can kind of move forward from there. So that was a lot that I kind of spit out very quickly. I think we can maybe give this 5 to 6 minutes. I'd love to hear a few things. So one, I just want to hear if y'all have any questions. I'd also love to hear if anyone is willing to share a practice they have, or if there's a book they have read that's inspired them. So that was 3 questions. So if you yourself have any questions, if there's a practice you have that you'd like to share, or if there's a book that you've read that has inspired you towards regular rhythms of songwriting. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen and come back here. Okay, I know it's always hard on Zoom, but feel free to jump in.
Yeah, could you go? Hi. Could you hear me? Okay. Could you talk a little bit more about the color walk again?
Totally.
What does
Yeah,
that
like
look like for you?
just like the process.
Yeah, I kind of, yeah, just wondering, like, have you written songs that way, and what is the process for that?
Yeah, yeah. I think for me, um, the color walk is kind of an avenue of learning how to slow down and pay attention to the world around you. I haven't yet used that for a song, but I could definitely see myself doing it at some point. Um, but I think that kind of thing has taught me in other ways to like pay attention and to capture things as they come, like in the moment to moment. I don't know if that makes sense, but to answer your question, I have not yet used it for a song, but I think I will at some point. But yeah, so I think with the color walk, so whether you're doing it, it doesn't have to be like, it could be a park, it could be in the city, it could be in your neighborhood. It doesn't have to be any particular place, but choosing a color and then just looking for that color as you're walking. Yeah.
One book that I love is called Writing Better Lyrics by Pat Pattison. He teaches songwriting. I think it's Belmont. He teaches songwriting at a really great school. And he talks about taking 10 minutes, setting a timer for 10 minutes and writing a sensory, like just using all 5 of your senses to describe an object. And it can be something that's right in front of you, or like one that I read that was amazing in his book, Writing Better Lyrics, was just about his porch when he was little. And like all 5 of your senses and just capturing that image. It's like stream of consciousness. So it's similar to what you described, Emma, with Julia Cameron's morning pages, but it's specifically around an object and it's specifically for your senses. So I did that early on, it was a few years ago now, every day for a month. I wrote more songs in that month, or just like captured ideas for songs in that month, like first thing in the morning. He said it wakes up your writer and it gets you like thinking about it all day. And I was just astonished. Like I didn't change anything else about my life. I just did that every morning for a month. And I was like, wow. So that was.
I'm gonna write some. So we've got some other ones too. The Stories We Tell by Joanna Gaines. I don't know if I'm gonna say this right. Andrea Stolp, another Berkeley professor. It's all great.
There's a practice that I enjoy. I feel like I hoard like scraps of paper of like pretty things from magazines or like words from something that I liked. And I like to take those and like paste them in like a moleskin journal. And then when I'm like thinking about inspiration, I'll go to all of those little like pictures or words or whatever, and I'll like free write around them. And that helps me sometimes.
I love that.
I was also just gonna say that I always get a annual membership in my local art museum. And I feel like that's a huge investment that I make in my creative bucket. Because it just makes it like very guilt-free to just like go at any time, pop in for like 15 or 30 minutes and like just see some beauty and then walk back out and go about my day. So that's something that I have valued over the last few years.
I love that. For those who live in Dallas, the Dallas Art Museum is free. So,
Well, there you go. Good job, Dallas.
yeah, I haven't read that one either. Saved by a Song.
One little thing that I do that sort of ties into what you were talking about earlier with being able to capture the ideas is I have these little notepads that I carry on me because I know if I write something in my notes app, it's gonna be lost. I'm never gonna look at it. I'm gonna get distracted by a text message or something. So just having these little notepads, I've written so many songs from the little ideas that I write on here. The ones that I have right here, they're like stone paper waterproof kind of deal. But I mean, you could just get like the cheap ones at Target or Walmart or the dollar store.
Waterproof.
Yeah. It's stone paper, so it's like made from refined stone, and it like doesn't really tear. It's kind of waterproof, so.
Oh, okay. Never heard of that. That's cool.
Yeah.
Anybody else? We got maybe one more minute.
This isn't so much of a practice as other than just, I realized that a few years ago, I took my guitar out of the case and I put it in a stand in the room that I spend a lot of time in. And having it literally 6 feet away or 8 feet away made a huge difference. And just the moments you think of something, I would just grab it and do something and then put it back and grab it and do it. I find that I touch it just so many times in a day. And I wouldn't do that if it was in the other room in a case, So it's just a subtle thing that has changed a lot.
That's great. Love that, Lewis. Okay, we'll stop there real quick because